Happy New Year.
Yo, what up? It's time for me to talk about video games for hopefully a good while. My stomach has been kind of messed up today, so I may need to call in some other folks to vogue for time at some point. Hopefully it won't come to that. Happy New Year to everyone that lives in time zones that have already crossed the threshold. I have played... I streamed about 69 games. Give or take a couple, there are around 69 games that I streamed this year. I forgot to make Chaos 4.0 Mario its own entry in the thing, but I had to remake the entire tier list thing like 6 times already, and I got tired of doing so. So here we go. We'll get what we get here, and hopefully you like it. Hopefully you like it. You don't have to agree with it, but hopefully you like it. Happy New Year, Zawowo. Hello, Dura. Hello, everybody. Thanks, Tarin, for the resub. Throwing eggs at the boy? Rude. Alright. So, let's go ahead. That's too much energy. That's also too much energy. Sure. We'll get weird with it right out the gate. I did it. I set up the scene correctly and did not show some kind of indecent tab to everybody. So, required to disagree? Aw, come on. So, we've got a pile of video games here. Some of them a little better known than others. And some of them a lot better than others. So, we'll get to it. We'll get to it later, dog. We're gonna go in the order of the arbitrary way that Tier List Maker sorted all of these games. I have absolutely no idea why they are sorted like this, but... Oh my god, the eggs. Okay. Backpack Hero. Backpack Hero is a game that I played the demo of, I think fairly early on when they first put up the demo version on itch. And it is one of the few games that I have ever contributed to the Kickstarter. So, I did play the full version, so I'm going to be rating the full version here. Backpack Hero has furries, so baseline A tier minimum. So, I like Backpack Hero a lot. I think it does a lot of fun things when it comes to having... So it's a run-based game, so it's got a lot of the same trappings there, but I think one of the things that it does really well compared to a lot of other run-based games is it differentiates the playable characters really well. The different playable characters play completely differently. And I think it is, I think it's pretty good. It's not... I don't think it's my favorite run-based game of the year. But if it's not, then it's pretty close. So, we're gonna start it out in the A tier. I hope everyone is ready for A tier to be completely fucking stacked full of a million games. Dragon's Dogma. So, I was going to stream more of this, and then I uninstalled it. So, if I were talking about Dragon's Dogma as far as I played it this year, it's not terribly high. Is this how much you like the game or how good of a stream they were? I think I'm going to be rating the games overall. My opinions of the games. And maybe I'll add in some stipulations here and there, and we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it. Dragon's Dogma is... Why do you even have a C and D tier? We'll get to it. We'll get to it! I'm on the second game and you're yelling at me! Why are you yelling at me? Dragon's Dogma. I think this game is... like, the perfect B-tier game. I think... Oh, Hat, but what about Deadly Premonition? Isn't Deadly Premonition also, like, a spectacular B game? Deadly Premonition feels more like a B-movie equivalent to a video game, as opposed to Dragon's Dogma, which feels like, as a video game, one of the best 7 out of 10s you're ever gonna play. It is great. Deadly Premonition is unintentionally hilarious. Deadly Premonition is intentionally hilarious. Look, I didn't stream Deadly Premonition this year, but Deadly Premonition would be S tier, easy, no second thoughts about it. I love Deadly Premonition. But that's why it's an important comparison, because I'm putting Dragon's Dogma at the absolute top of the B tier. Because it is a game that I spent a lot of time playing, a game that I liked playing a lot. But when it comes to trying to recall stuff that I did in the game, when it comes to, like, how I think about the quality of the game, it's... Like I said, one of the best 7 out of 10s. A real 7 out of 10 or a gaming journalism 7 out of 10? I'm not going to answer that because I don't know how. Uh-huh. Okay. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. One of my favorite video games on the N64. I love Shadows of the Empire. Dash Rendar is my homeboy. I love the Outrider. I hate the sewer level. I did struggle quite a bit to actually beat this game. But everyone hates the sewer level. A bad sewer level. Maybe I should stream Dungeon Lords at some point. Dungeon Lords has an interesting sewer level. Some of the dungeon levels in Dungeons & Dragons Online were actually kinda neat. Really love that last level. That last level drove me fucking insane. Well, both of the last levels, like the last on-foot level and then the last spaceship level, were both buck wild in this game. I'm putting it in B tier for as much as I like this game, because good golly gumdrops, that game is hard to play nowadays. It is some jank. It is rough around the edges. But I think as far as Star Wars games go, it is a pretty solid experience. If you can deal with how unpleasant that game can be to play from a controls perspective. Like, I love that train level. That train level's a pain in the ass, and it's weird, and it's wild, but I love that train level so much. You should hold the games for as long as you're rating them, for those of us that don't have short-term memory. I don't know if my mouse would hold out throughout the entire stream, because I'm going to be talking about these games for a while. The B stands for Badrick. Rogue Agent S tier. Rogue Agent D tier. Hey! One of the first D tiers of the day. GoldenEye Rogue Agent sucks ass. What a terrible video game. God, I love when my aiming reticle is 3/4 up the screen. Oh god. Game I'm talking about right now tier. God. None of you people are gonna make this easy for me, huh? Oh, we got some fireworks going off. You didn't like using 8 different weapons in a variety of iconic Bond corridors? I didn't! That fucking dam level... Okay, the dam level had one of the best cutscenes in a video game I've ever seen. That Oddjob cutscene is so incredible. One of the most memorable moments of any stream this year. But holy shit. Oh, that game sucked so bad to play. Oh my god, it was so bad. Hey, remember that cool was it the casino, or was it a hotel, or what? Where it's like, oh, you gotta survive the elevator section of, like, it's just a rail shooter of you're standing in a slowly moving elevator and you gotta shoot all the dudes. Remember how you can just crouch in the elevator and just not have to fight any of the enemies? But it was memorable. A bad game can be memorable. Memorable or not, GoldenEye Rogue Agent sucks. Hey, how about another B tier game? How we feeling about Sonic Adventure DX? But Hat, how could it be a B tier game? You love Sonic. I do. You love Sonic Adventure. I do. But I love Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic Adventure 2 is a fantastic video game. Genuinely one of my favorite video games of all time. Doesn't have silver in it, so it can't be S for silver. Play Sonic Battle? Maybe. So, Sonic Adventure DX. I love the idea of having, like, the different playable characters, and all of the different playable characters have, like, some of them share levels, but the objectives in the levels are different, and like, some of the characters will have unique levels, and like, everyone doing the same storyline at the same time is really fun. Of just, like, you'll be playing a level, and you'll just see a cutscene in someone else's campaign in the background. That's pretty fun. I like it overall. But actually playing the levels is generally not spectacular. That casino level kinda sucks. Hey, it's an okay sewer level, but as a casino level, I don't like pinball. How do you feel about giving Sonic DX a higher score from how utterly gross the cover art is? I think I'm putting it in B tier below Dragon's Dogma. But yeah, that's not a good cover. Sonic looks so greasy, and Chaos is just there, just hanging out. You like the pinball? I don't like pinball in general. So the people told me, like, oh, Peglin, it's like a pinball roguelike or roguelite. And I was like, ew, gross. And then it's like, no, it's Peggle. So I need to play Peglin at some point, because I love Peggle. Hate pinball. Monster Hunter Rise, including Sunbreak DLC. Monster Hunter Rise is a really great game as long as you have at least one other person to play it with. I think I played maybe a dozen hours or less of actually playing Monster Hunter Rise by myself. I don't count just, like, doing the Sonic mission and grinding for money. I don't count that, but just, like, actually hunting monsters solo. I did not play much of it, but playing it with friends, I had a great time. A lot of cool monsters, a lot of fun designs. The weapons, I do wish that I experimented more with the weapons, but the Sword and Shield is just so much fun to use. The Palicos and Palamute mechanics are all really great, and the Sunbreak DLC adds so much content. It is really great. And it's like a game that I could just keep playing periodically forever. I haven't even seen, like, all of the easy to access content in Rise. There's still so much for me to see and so much to do. So that's gonna hang out in A tier. I think below Backpack Hero overall? We'll see. Content treadmill is very steep. You're on it. That treadmill, you're going. When you're on that treadmill, you continue to go. Factorio. Another example of game this year that I had played basically none of by myself, but had a great time playing it with friends. The space exploration mod is really cool. The Factorio crew might be getting back together at some point within the next couple of months. We shall see. But it's a factory builder game. That's what you get. It is exactly, it is the factory game. Satisfactory when? We're getting to it. But yeah. Factorio. A tier. Love that game. Perfect game for me to, read the Soda Wiki to. And next up we got Guess the Game, and I think we have our first S-tier game. Even though it's not actually a game, it's a website. But it's a game. I mean, come on. It's a game. I love Guess the Game a whole lot. I think there are some problems with it. Sometimes the hint information is just factually incorrect, which is very frustrating. But as someone that has seen and played and looked at way too many video games over the course of my life, Guess the Game is the perfect opportunity for me to flaunt my useless knowledge to all of my friends. I love it. Guess the Game, hanging out in S tier. Guess the Game would be more interesting if there was some way to filter the games you're looking at to be relevant to your actual experiences. I think part of the appeal is the challenge of being able to identify like such a wide variety of games, and also that gives it a lot of longevity. I bet the game tomorrow is going to be Mario Bros. 2. Guess the Game in 0. Damn, the called shot. So. I love Guess the Game. I play... And another great thing about Guess the Game, being able to go back and play previous days, and, like, if you miss a day, it doesn't impact your streak or whatever, like... I was able to... I started playing Guess the Game, like, in the 70s or something, and I just went back and played all of the previous Guess the Games, because it's just fun. Previous day thing is clunky. What a nerd. Proud of you. Yeah, I currently am undefeated in Guess the Game. I have not failed to guess the game yet. My Guess the Game stats are out of this world. Missed one day of Wordle, so you quit forever. Yeah, I've missed a couple of days of Wordle, but it's nice to have this daily thing of, like, I do my Guess the Game, I do my Wordle, and that's my daily check-in. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I have not beaten this game yet. Do not spoil me on anything pertaining to this game, but I think Xenoblade Chronicles 3... So, we're getting to 3 before 1 and 2, which is awkward. But here's the thing. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 has everything that makes Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2 endearing and charming and interesting and fun, and then also... it's actually fun to play, which is a drastic improvement over Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and a notable improvement over Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Daily check-in is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Play it through once a day. Oh god. A game that's fun to play is so novel. So yeah, the Xenoblade Chronicles series and me have... I can't have a song with singing going. Speech jammed. Oh my god. Explosions! I love the Xenoblade games. I love all 3 of these video games. They have such great world building, and I love the characters, and the story is great. They do such interesting things when it comes to, like, general game direction. But 1 and 2... I wasn't too low on Xenoblade 1 for the first while. But the combat system in Xenoblade 1 really overstayed its welcome. Xenoblade 3, I'm like 60-something hours in, and it's still, like, introducing new and interesting gameplay mechanics, and I like engaging with the gameplay mechanics. Sometimes I will just do random encounters because, like, oh, I just switched to a new class. I'm really enjoying this new class, so I'm just gonna go do a bunch of fights with this new class because it's fun to play. It's great. And also, the soundtrack for Xenoblade 3 is spectacular so far. Shame it lost to God of War. Yeah, I'm sure Dad of Boy Ragnarok is fantastic. God of War, the new God of War, was fantastic. I 100%ed that game, and it was super fun the whole way through. I'm sure Ragnarok is also really fun, and really good, and really well made. But Xenoblade 3, for sure, one of my favorite games of the year. Top 5 bare minimum, probably top 3. In terms of games that came out this year, not for this tier list, because this tier list has fucking Super Mario 64 on it, which isn't fair. Imagine playing a game that's just good and not a trash fire that expands your mind. Well, hey, talking about games that are just good, Little Gator Game! Little Gator Game is, like, has become one of my easiest video game recommendations. Just period. Just like, hey, you want to play a fun video game? You play Little Gator Game. Because it's not hard. It's super, like, it's not hard and it's not long. Which normally would be downsides for me. But no, it's an easy game that doesn't overstay its welcome. Very compact, very content-dense. It doesn't make you wander around aimlessly. Like, the stuff that you have to do, you're pretty well directed to it, because the environment design is great, because it keeps everything to a small environment. Little Gator Game is Schmovement of the Year 2022. Harder on your hands than any game, including Mario 64 and Melee. God damn. Yeah, Little Gator Game, in addition to being just like a game that I would recommend to anyone, just flat out, it's also just super fun to play if you're into video games, because there's all kinds of like cool mechanics that really let you schmoove on it. You can go real fast. You can do some shenanigans with just like climbing up obstacles and like hopping onto your shield as like a little extra jump, and it's got the Breath of the Wild stamina mechanic, but better because you recover your stamina like instantly. It's so much fun to play. It's so cute. I really loved the story. I loved the characters. Like, the writing was great. It looked great. The music was good. Like, it was all good. It was all super duper good. I think I put it above Xenoblade 3. It's so good. It's just such a good video game. 100% seems like the aesthetic and story you'd get from an indie walking simulator, but then gives you schmovement. Yeah, like, it's got so much indie kitschy charm, but it's so genuine. It's just, It's good. I love Gator Game. One of my favorite games of the year. Sonic Robo Blast 2 Kart. A kart racer modification of a 3D Sonic game that was made in the Doom engine. It's weird, and it controls weird. If you have played a Mario Kart basically ever, then you are both at a significant advantage and disadvantage going into Sonic Robo Blast 2 Kart. It's so much fun to play with friends. It is maybe one of my favorite party games now, where you've got all these goofy characters to play. I mean, I don't know a good way to actually play it at a party, but you got all these goofy characters, and I'm talking in the context of as I played it on stream here. If you just boot up regular-ass Sonic Robo Blast 2 Kart, then you're not gonna have as much going on compared to playing on a fucking furry server with Blinks the Time Sweeper as a playable character. It's a lot of fun. It is a really great party time, just playing a kart game with your friends. I like it a lot. LAN party? Yeah! Someone has a big cow lady in a cart and that's all you want. Yeah, it's very easy to make new kart racer characters for the Sonic Kart, from my understanding. Several of my friends have made their own racers, and they're pretty great. Team Fortress 2. So, just the whole game? No. Specifically Man vs. Machine. Hey! Another fun multiplayer party game that I had a really great time with. Playing it on higher difficulties starts to get a little frustrating, because you will sometimes end up in situations that feel a little unfair, a little unearned, but you also get some great situations where you feel like you are just completely ridiculously overpowered and everything just clicks and you wipe out an entire wave of robots with no effort. I like how there's like different builds you could have with Man vs. Machine. I don't like that you actually have to have the weapons crafted, because, you know, TF2, that's TF2. Why is Xenoblade 2 there twice? We'll get to it. But yeah, Man vs. Machine, I liked it a lot. I had a great time playing that with my friends. Would be nice if you could have, like, big lobbies, have a bunch of people playing, and just, like, pile in the robots to the point of, like, breaking the server. I would love that. Hey! More games that were a spectacularly fun time with friends. The Super Mario 64 EX co-op mod, which currently doesn't work correctly, last I was made aware, but once it's fixed and once the Discord integration works again, or there is some kind of reasonable way to easily play this with friends again, we're going back in. What if you take the M64 out of SM64 EX co-op? Wow. Really makes you think. Super Mario 64 co-op mod was some of my favorite streams of the year. Maybe some of my favorite streams ever. because it is so much fun. And it's so... Speaking as someone that plays a lot of Super Mario 64, you know what's cool? Playing Super Mario 64 while you can see your buddies running around also grabbing stars and being able to do dumb cooperative strats and being able to, like, boot each other off the end of Bowser in the Sky. And also implementing stuff like different characters having different, different movement and different abilities. Adding in, what do you call it? ROM hacks. Like, being able to play a ROM hack of Super Mario 64 cooperatively, multiplayer, online. Super cool, super fun. Yeah, well, we'll put it at the top of S tier for now, I think. I think it deserves the spot. Nobody Saves the World. Nobody played this game, I thought, but then it kept showing up in a lot of people's... I kept seeing it show up. Like, I kept seeing people talk about it at the same time that I would hear nobody talk about it. It was a weird quantum state of a game. Oh my god, the fucking straw in the plastic disposable cup lid. Driving me crazy here. Nobody Saves the World was a pretty interesting Metroidvania style game. I think a lot of the mechanics just didn't work out as well as you'd want them to. And playing as a completionist, I was goaded into trying to max out all of the different forms. And there's a lot of forms that aren't fun to play. But sometimes there were forms where it's like, oh, this form sucks, but if you max it out, you get a really good bonus. So, I don't know. It was fine. It was alright. I started out liking it more than I ended out liking it, I think. I think Nobody Saves the World is gonna hang out in C tier. I love Drinkbox games, or Drinkbox Studios. I love their stuff. I think Nobody Saves the World was overall pretty alright, but didn't stick the landing. Didn't Tunic come out shortly after this? Yeah, I think they came out in a relatively close time period, and we're gonna get to Tunic, but it's not exactly a fair comparison. Sonic Frontiers! Let's hear it for all of you Psyloop gamers out there. Psyloop Gaming, hashtag Psyloop Gaming. Sonic Frontiers is really great. It is, like, weirdly melancholy. All of the characters come across as, like, adults. But not just adults, like, way more mature than you would expect out of Sonic characters, just being, like, really introspective and, like, more mindful, I guess. It's weird. The characterization is weird, but I like it. And the soundtrack is powerful. And the gameplay, I like the gameplay a lot. It didn't give me motion sickness, which it might give you motion sickness if you are vulnerable to that kind of thing. But it's fun. You run around all fast, like you go, like, there are a lot of interesting mechanics that really work with navigating an open world 3D environment. There are a couple of mechanics that definitely did not feel all the way thought through. Like, just, like, oh no, I don't have maximum rings, I better do 30 Psyloops in place to build my rings back up. That kind of thing was a little jank. The upgrade system is a pain in the ass, but I think overall, pretty solid. I liked it a lot. I still need to finish it. Is Silver in Sonic Frontiers? I don't know. I finished the second zone and haven't played it since then because it's a lot. It takes it out of me. Sonic Frontiers is your favorite Sonic game. Well, hey, talking about Sonic games, here's my favorite Sonic game. I do like Sonic Adventure 2 more than Frontiers. I'm sorry. Sonic Adventure 2 is one of my favorite video games, just in general. I played it, originally played it on the GameCube at exactly the right time in my life, and it has stuck with me ever since. I've never forgotten almost anything out of this game, except for like a couple of Chow mechanics, because who even remembers any of that? Sonic Adventure 2. Fantastic soundtrack. Some of the best, like, gameplay in a 3D Sonic, and, like, some of my favorite gameplay in a 3D platformer in general. Like, the different characters control in interesting ways, and there's a bunch of interesting level designs that really take advantage of the way that they play. There are some hot garbage levels. Let's not get it twisted. Mad Space, or whatever Rouge's space level is, the stupid Mario Galaxy before Mario Galaxy. That level's a pile of garbage, but I love this game. S tier. For sure. Where does a 200% speed run? So, it wasn't 200%, it was 240%. Or like 244% or something like that. I think it was 240%. The hyperspeed Sonic Adventure to play through, also in S tier. It is very difficult to play through that game when it is going at over double the speed, because there's a couple of sections in that game, especially during the Sonic and Shadow levels, where you go pretty fast, believe it or not, and trying to control yourself when you're going that fast while the game is also going very fast. Bit of an uphill battle. One of my favorite streams of the year. I loved doing that stream. It was so hard. It was so difficult. And all of the characters, like, talking over each other in the cutscenes. Oh my god, it was... And, like, a bunch of the cutscenes just completely breaking. Oh, that was so good. It was spectacular. The one Shadow level. Which one? There were a couple of levels that were oofa doofa. Sonic 200% versus Superman 20%. Oh god. Against the Storm. Run-based city builder. Run-based roguelite city builder. It's a weird game. It's a very weird game in terms of the way that it handles all of its mechanics, but I think it manages so it invokes the sense of, like, the campaign or skirmish mode in an RTS. So, like, playing Age of Empires 2 campaign mode. Did that game have a campaign mode? Whatever. where it's like one of those, but there's no combat. So you're still trying to, like, tech up, you're trying to build all of these, you're trying to, like, expand your city, you're trying to gather new resources, optimize your gathering of resources, you're trying to do all this neat stuff that you wouldn't normally do in a run-based game. Every city, it only takes a couple of hours, so you can like sit down and do a city, and that's neat. And there's meta progression stuff, which does have the effect of like, oh, you should avoid the highest difficulties, even if you know what you're doing, until you get a bunch of these meta progression stuff. That's always an upside and a downside to this kind of game. But I think the meta progression stuff does interesting things. Like introducing the concept of there being other factions present in the world, like building on the overworld map, and different ways that you would interact with these different city, like, the different factions. It's cool. It's a very cool game. Highly recommended if you like city builders. I don't know if it's a full S, but it's definitely at least an A. A city builder where you're constantly starting over sounds horrid. So that's the thing. The game, like, every run is paced such that you, like, by the time you complete the mission, you will have explored a lot of the available map, you will have, like, expended a lot of resource nodes. It doesn't feel like a kind of game where you would, like, when you complete the mission, you can just continue playing with that city and, like, completely clear all of the trees and just, like, do a bunch of trade route stuff. Like, you can just keep playing, but I mean, I'm a fan of traditional city builders. I love City Skylines, and, you know, with that kind of game, you don't want to be regularly starting over, but in Against the Storm, I think it works really well. It's like $15, like $16 on Steam, because it's on sale right now. If you like city builders, I think it is worth a try. Speaking of games that are good and cheap, Vampire Survivors. Doesn't feel like a wasted effort. Yeah, with Against the Storm, like, the game is structured such that you do not feel like you are missing out by losing out on your old cities, because you unlock some new meta progression stuff, you might level up and unlock some, like, new buildings that you could potentially get on some of your runs. It's neat. Trust me, it works. It works. And speaking of a game that just works, Vampire Survivors. How about a top-down twin-stick shooter, a run-based top-down twin-stick shooter where there's one stick and no buttons? Well, you use a button in menus, but it's mostly just you scoot around on a screen. The simplicity of the game design is almost kind of off-putting at first, but because it's so cheap, the barrier, like, the bar for entry is so low. And if you've never played Vampire Survivors before, the mobile version is free, and you can watch ads to get, like, in-run bonuses, like to get a free revive, or to get extra gold on a run. So, like, nothing major. It doesn't make you watch an ad per run or whatever. If you haven't played it before, play it. Vampire Survivors is so good. The ways that you can completely break the game, and the game just goads you on to break it more and more. You unlock new weapons, which are even more broken. You unlock new weapons, which are less broken but do stupider things. You unlock characters that have weird bonuses, and start with weapons that either are hard to get otherwise, or you start with a weapon that you really, really like. So then, as you unlock more and more stuff, eventually you can, like, unlock meta progression and make that character that has the weapon that you really like. You can just make them drastically more powerful on all subsequent runs, and you can break the game even more. That game has added so much content. There is so much in that game, and now there's like a DLC that adds like a huge map, but it's not just a huge map. It's it feels like a cohesive level as opposed to just like a very long series of corridors or whatever, or like a big open field. Like the DLC adds a level that's like a level, and like you go into the caves and the Oni demons start spawning, because those are the Oni caves, and you go over to the frozen lake, and that's where the Kappas spawn, and you can fight a bunch of Kappas, and then you unlock the Kappa, and the Kappa blows bubbles, and the bubble-blowing weapon sucks garbage, but it's weird and interesting. Get attraction in holy water, evolve it, win the game. Yeah, so it's when you first start off, you do, like, there is pretty basic meta progression stuff, but then there's like extra layers of meta progression that you can unlock, and all of the things that you are expected to unlock is listed out pretty straightforward. So even if you don't, like, if you want to be more guided than just like, I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to play as the man that starts with the garlic, and I'm just going to do a run or two with the garlic man and see what happens. If you want something more guided than that, the game has guidance to like show you, like, hey, if you want to unlock this thing, or if you want to unlock a thing, get to level 99 as this character, or survive 20 minutes with this character. And early on, that can be challenging, but because it's always fail forward, no matter how badly you do on a run, you're always going to earn at least a little bit of money from it. And so a couple of, like, completely punked out runs, you'll eventually be able to buy some upgrades, and the upgrades will make you much more powerful. And once you're much more powerful, then you can win more runs regularly and buy even more upgrades and unlock stuff more regularly. It is like, and even stuff as simple as like, when you kill an elite enemy, which is just like a boss enemy or an enemy that's just like harder, it drops a treasure chest. And when you open up the treasure chest, it gives you a little roulette wheel of like, hey, what did you get in the box? And you, unless you have all of your stuff maxed out, usually it'll be like, here's an upgrade level for one of your weapons or one of your items. And sometimes you get like better versions of the roulette wheel where you get multiple things, and it starts like playing a light show, and you get cool music, you get fancy, everything starts popping off. You get access to a power-up that's like, oh, you get the fire breath from Kid Icarus, or you get, you attract every item on the level to you, or you get a money bonus where every time you kill something you get extra money, and while the money bonus is going, gold is just falling from the skies. It's so much. It's like a slot machine you can play forever for free. Yeah, so people started getting upset. Like, the person that designed Vampire Survivors originally, like the original designer, did work in casino games. So they know what parts of those kinds of games make you feel good. And they utilize that stuff perfectly because it makes Vampire Survivors feel like, sure, you could say, oh, it's artificially rewarding because it's not even that hard of a video game. Oh, they're making everything seem much more exciting than it actually is. And it's just like, yeah. But it's fun. It's fun to open up a box that has 3 items in it. It's super fun to open up a box that has 5 items in it. It's like, you get that moment of like, oh shit, loot box time, what do I get? And you get that regularly enough, and the way that the game is structured, you're not, like, for a while, you're not going to go past half an hour. Eventually you unlock the ability to have runs longer than half an hour, but the game will, for a lot of your playtime, the game will just cut you off at half an hour of playtime. And that's perfect. Because the game cuts you off, and then you could go, alright, one more. Or you could go, alright, I'm done. I keep coming back to this game because I will go in, and I will see the list of objectives that I have to unlock all of the new stuff that has been added since the last time I play. And I will play that game for 4 to 6 hours and just unlock all the stuff. And I love it. It's so much fun. And then I'm done. I don't feel a need to play it constantly. It is such a fantastic game. It's such a fantastic game. It's good. It's so good. I could talk about Vampire Survivors for an entire stream on its own, really. But it's so much fun. And it's cheap. It's like $5 full price. It's like $7 for the game and the DLC. And I've played that game for over 100 hours, and I could easily just boot up Vampire Survivors right now and play like an hour and a half of it without a second thought. Oh yeah, it also has lore. Yeah, there's a lot of content in that game. Like, and there's secrets. Like, they added in a secrets menu to show you all of the secrets that you have unlocked. There's a level I haven't even played yet. There's so much video game in that video game. It's so good. Yeah, thanks, Stephanie Sterling. But yeah, it's great. It's so good. Yakuza 5! So, I haven't finished streaming this one, but Yakuza 5 is one of my favorite Yakuzas. It is definitely a high-tier Yakuza. I like the story a lot. I think it looks great. I think it has some of the best combat in the entire series. And it also has, like, consistently good side content. It is a game, it is the game in many ways. It is a game that will just keep putting game in front of you. Like, I'll do a stream where it's just like, alright, I'm just gonna do all the side stories, and I do all the side stories. And then I'm like, alright, I've done all the side stories. Let's do some main story. And I watch a single cutscene of the main story, and then it's like, oh hey kid, do you want a tournament fighter arc? And I'm like, yeah. Do you want your tournament fighter arc to be introduced to you by an NPC that is modeled after Kazuma Kiryu's voice actor? Yeah, I do. Alright, here you go. Here's another, like, several hours of content that you can go out of your way to do. Hey, do you like racing minigames? Yeah. Alright, here's an entire, like, Street Racer arc. I love it. Oh, some of the street racing gets pretty tough, huh? Well, it's a good thing that you're street racing in your taxi. Hey, why don't you go do some taxi missions? Why don't you just drive around town, like, responsibly, and get bonus points for being a good taxi driver? Okay. Hey, how about some taxi missions where you don't even do the driving and you just talk to someone? Yeah, alright. Alright, so the locker keys kinda overstayed their welcome a little bit, don't you think? Well, how about instead of picking up locker keys, you pick up trash, and the trash increases your social conscientiousness level. And people will praise you for being such a good boy for picking up all the trash in the town. Okay. Hey, you know that noodle stand that you went and hung out with your drunk boss at that one time? Well, if you go back to that noodle stand, you get a mini game. Cool! Can I play that minigame whenever I want? And you earn money for doing it! And you get an achievement for doing well! Okay. And this is with one playable character. There are multiple playable characters in Yakuza 5, and I have already spent over a dozen hours just doing random bullshit. It's great! It is so much video game. I would say the worst part about Yakuza 5 as a whole is by the time most new players get to Yakuza 5, they have already finished 5 full Yakuza games. So, it's understandable to be like, I think I'm done. I'm getting a little burnt out on this. But if you stick through it, it's one of the best. If you can get past Yakuza 3, you can get through Yakuza 5, and you will be rewarded for doing so. Yakuza 5 rules. Great game. How about a not great game, though? What if we talked about a game that I didn't like very much? Mega Man 9! So, my full Mega Man adventure was last year, but people started to nag me a little bit. Because Mega Man 9, I got to the very, very end, and I couldn't beat it because it was too hard. And people took issue with this. Mega Man 9 is the worst game with a 9 in it. Did I dislike Mega Man 9 more than Mighty Number 9? Yes. I think I disliked Mega Man 9 more than Mighty Number 9, but that's not necessarily fair to Mega Man 9. Side story music. It's not necessarily fair, because one of the reasons why I hate Mega Man 9 so much is that I hate Mega Man 9 after having played Mega Man 1 through 8. And Mega Man 8, a lot of people didn't like Mega Man 8. I liked Mega Man 8 a lot, and one of the things that I liked about the Mega Man series as a whole... Oh no, you're not subscribed! One of the things that I liked so much about the Mega Man games was that they were so willing to do weird stuff going between the games. Introducing new mechanics, like... They got weird with it. They experimented with the formula. It was so rare that I would play a Mega Man game and be like, oh, well that was just more of what I already played. Because even if they did it better, or even if it was relatively similar to something that came before, they did something interesting with it. Like, going from Mega Man 1 to Mega Man 2, the interesting thing was, they made the levels less bad. That's doing something interesting. No, but there was the different weapons, like the mobility weapons, which did interesting things. And then you get to Mega Man 3 and you got the slide, which I didn't use often enough in any of the games, but then you get to Mega Man 9, and Mega Man 9 is just like, hey, what if we did Mega Man 2 but bad? What if people like Mega Man 2? We love Mega Man 2. Mega Man 2 was the only good Mega Man game, so we're just going to make Mega Man 2 again. And they didn't need to do Mega Man 2 again. And then they did Mega Man 10, which was Mega Man 9 again. And then you get to Mega Man 11, and they do something new and interesting and fun with it, and Mega Man 11 is one of my favorite Mega Man games. They get to Mega Man 11, and it's just like, oh, hey, this is what I like about Mega Man. They did new things. They had the gears system, like the power gear and the speed gear, and that was cool, and they, like, the upgrades were interesting, and the weapons were neat. Great, love Mega Man 11. Which makes me dislike Mega Man 9 and 10 even more. Because they demonstrated that they were capable of... They demonstrated... 11 demonstrated that you can continue to do new and interesting things with Mega Man. Which makes me mad again that Mega Man 9 and 10 were just like, ah, I fucking love Mega Man 2. Mega Man 2, let's go, baby! Mega Man 2 isn't even the best Mega Man game from Mega Man 1 to 8. Ugh. Ugh. Makes me so mad. D tier. Fuck Mega Man 9. And me putting it above GoldenEye Rogue Agent is me being like, I recognize that a lot of my hatred for Mega Man 9 is just me. But fuck that game. Dwarf Fortress. Mad because bad. I beat Mega Man. I beat it. I beat Mega Man 9. You can't nag me about it anymore. I beat it. Dwarf Fortress. Hey kid, do you like city building games? How about the most fucked up deranged city building game you ever gonna see? You want that? And everyone in the world said, please let me pay you $20 for this. And so they gave it graphics, and they gave it controls, unlike the old versions of the game. And now it's a real video game, and I like it a lot. I definitely want to play more of it, but there's so much game that I want to play right now that I haven't been willing to let myself just fall into the dwarf hole. And you should not let yourself fall into the dwarf hole because there's probably spikes or lava at the bottom of it. Does Dwarf Fortress make you lay each brick individually when building your city? Not, well, kind of. Not really, but kind of. I hear Dwarf Fortress is for insane people. Yes. But the new version makes it so that that insanity is so much more accessible. So you might not ever get to the level of... It's kind of like Space Station 13 in a way. Of you might not ever get to the same level of weird and crazy and interesting shit going on. But even the base level of weird stuff that goes on in Dwarf Fortress, I think, is well worth the price of entry. If you are willing to deal with some, like, janky game mechanics, because they didn't make it into City Skylines. No. This is still not a casual experience, but they made it accessible. And if you're willing to put in a little bit of time into learning how shit works, and there's a tutorial, there are various tutorials that will teach you various mechanics of the game, which is incredible. It's accessible. And so it is such a cool game, it is such a weird game, and it is a game that I have been interested and hearing stories about for such a long time, and the fact that I am now able to be like, yeah, you could play Dwarf Fortress. To most people, yeah, I think that is super valuable. I think Dwarf Fortress is an S tier. I think it is so dang cool. Woo! Yay! Before Steam, it was impossible to recommend. Yeah, trying to learn Dwarf Fortress was just like, alright, so you're gonna need to download this pack of add-ons. This pack of add-ons includes 2 separate programs. One of them lets you see what's actually happening, and one of them lets you play the game. Did you just skip Trigun Song? I couldn't have the Trigun Song going because it had lyrics and singing, and it was messing me up. I love that song, but I could not have that song going while I'm trying to talk. This is as bad as the time Slinko skipped Roundabout. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that when I did it. I was just like, oh no, someone's gonna get mad at me for this. I'm sorry. Have you ever thought of playing Live Alive for one session, then playing more off-stream like I do with Xenoblade? Yes, I have considered checking out Live Alive at some point. I mean, you could toss it into the suggestion box again. Yay! As a reminder, you can toss it in there, but there's a lot of games for me to be playing right now, so I do want to do something like that. Either just stream the whole thing, or stream a little bit of it, and then talk about my experiences on the Discord. I might... Either way that I'm gonna do it, I do want to check it out at some point. Yay! Super Punch-Out! We got a recent entry to the list here. Super Punch-Out is a game that I loved as a children. Super Punch-Out is a fucked up hard video game. Even when you start to learn what's going on and like how you're generally expected to approach the fights, once you start getting into the swing of things, even after that point, Super Punch-Out can very much feel like an unfair video game. I'm not going to say that it is an unfair video game. I say that it can feel like an unfair video game. Now, does that make me like it less? No. Because it's what, like 16 fights for the entire game? Like, you gotta get your money's worth out of it, buddy. You gotta. Good old Nintendo hard, as they say. I like Super Punch-Out a lot. I have barely played original Punch-Out, and I have never played Punch-Out Wii. But Super Punch-Out is a game that I will sometimes think about, and I will boot it up, and I will play it, and I will get to, I will get, like, up, either through the second cup, or, like, towards the end of the second cup, like not Super Macho Man, Mr. Sandman. I'll get to about there, and be like, alright, I'm not good enough to beat this, but I had fun. Punch-Out Wii is a legit fantastic game. Yeah. I think I will stream Punch-Out Wii, maybe original Punch-Out as well at some point, but I like Super Punch-Out a lot. It's a low A tier because it is frustrating, and I am bad at it. But it's on there. It's on there, baby. RuneScape, which is to say RuneScape 3, for folks that don't know the difference. I don't play old school RuneScape because I do not have that kind of brain. I have modern video game player brain. Is RuneScape a great MMO? Kinda. Is RuneScape worth the subscription fee? It can be. Is RuneScape worth the subscription fee over Final Fantasy XIV? No. No, not at all. Not even a little bit. Not even close. It's basically a non-comparison. Final Fantasy XIV is one of the best MMORPGs ever made. RuneScape is a weird jank pile of mechanics and weird writing and world design and mechanic design where you click rocks and make number go up. RuneScape is a fantastic brain turn-off game. It's a fantastic, I'm watching a show and I want to have something going kind of game. There's a lot of reasons to like RuneScape. And I do like RuneScape. Some of the quest writing is genuinely pretty funny and charming. The sheer scope of the amount of stuff there is to do in this game is ridiculous. Like, the concept of, the idea of, hey, there's a quest, and if you do this quest, which is a super prolonged red paperclip trading quest that is intentionally way too long and takes you everywhere. If you complete this quest, you unlock a keyring, and the keyring lets you put certain keys on it so that they don't take up inventory space. Great. What an incredible video game. RuneScape 3 looks like it could not have come out any time besides the early 2000s. Old school RuneScape could have come out yesterday and its graphics would make as much sense. Yeah, some of the graphics for RuneScape 3, it's weird. They are like just gradually improving the graphics in certain areas. And so, like, sometimes you'll log in after a while and be like, oh, what? This town looks different. Everything is exactly the same positions. Mechanically, it is one-to-one exactly the same. But all the graphics were changed. Yeah, if RuneScape 3 let me be a full furry, I would be more interested. If Final Fantasy XIV let me be a full furry that was not a giant Bara cat man, I would also be more interested in playing that more often. But RuneScape is a weird game to recommend. Because if you want to play RuneScape, you probably know. Right? I am not going to recommend people play RuneScape in a broad sense. However, I think if you like exploring weird games, RuneScape is one of the best documented and mainstream and active weird games. There is so much in this game that you can just find out and just be like, well, what do you mean I can do that? What do you mean I was able to do that all along. What do you mean I've been doing this other thing that's way worse for 30 hours? And it's just like, you didn't look over here. You didn't talk to this NPC. Sucks to suck. It is a game that is so willing to just let you figure shit out on your own, while simultaneously having various systems in place for guiding your progression. It is, like, a game that is so open. You can do most of whatever the fuck you want at any given time, and you will be making progress. There are more efficient ways to approach, like, oh, you shouldn't level prayer past 43 until you unlock the Necrofuntus, because the Necrofuntus is generally just going to be a far more efficient way of training your prayer. But if you want to go hard on it, you can get your prayer to 68, I think is the quest requirement, and then you can complete this very long quest line, and that unlocks a weapon that lets you kill vampires. But not the regular vampires. It lets you kill super vampires, and when you kill the super vampires, it gives you pretty good prayer XP, while also giving you decent drop rates and combat experience. It's so much. It's so much. It's too much. It's a lot. It is so difficult. Like, it's weird and I like it. But I'm not going to say to, like, by default, hey, you should get into RuneScape. I also haven't played RuneScape in a while because I've just been playing other games, but there's a couple of animes that I want to watch, so I might be diving back into the RuneScape zone at a certain point. Is that vampire thing real? Yes. Also, even if you have high skills, sometimes it's worth doing low-level stuff too. And like, certain training methods are better if you, like, just buy the materials, and there are certain ways of playing where it's just like, you could be an Iron Man, where it's just like, you're not allowed to trade with other players, so you have to be entirely self-sufficient. And I was doing that, like, I generally do stuff like that. Like, I don't by default try to buy my way through everything, but there's a couple of things that are just like, you should probably just save up some money and buy the materials, because farming for herbs is not a good way to spend your time. You recommend people play RuneScape the same way you'd recommend people play WoW? No. Because RuneScape will always be RuneScape. Sometimes WoW is bad. And also, you know, giving Blizzard your money, even outside of that aspect. I heard that Dragonflight is pretty good. I have heard that WoW is pretty good right now. Am I going to play it over Final Fantasy XIV? Probably not. If you want to play an MMO, you should probably just play Final Fantasy XIV. But RuneScape is not a traditional MMO. It is very different. And I think that what makes it different is valuable, and I think it has a good niche, even to an average Vigigame player of, I'm just gonna click rocks while I'm doing something else. It's basically an idle game that requires too much attention when you are doing certain skills. It's weird. It's very weird. WoW kind of puts you on a leash the entire time. Certain expansions are much more linear than others. Yeah, that, like, Jagex is not a perfect company, but I feel better about giving Jagex my money compared to giving Blizzard my money. Bloodborne PSX. It's only... How much of it... Didn't Bloodborne PSX also have, like, its own unique content? It's weird. Bloodborne PSX is exactly Bloodborne PSX. It's exactly what you think it is. For better and for worse. It plays janky. The menu system is a nightmare, even more than Bloodborne usually is, like, aesthetically. But the person that made Bloodborne PSX is cool, and it nails everything that it sets out to do. It is exactly the game that it wants to be. It's not the whole game, but it does have, like, some of its own original content, do not steal. Would I recommend people play it? It's free! It's not super long. It's interesting, it's weird, it's going into B. Bloodborne Kart is not out yet, but I have been looking at the progress on Bloodborne Kart, and wow! That's the best way I can sum up what I think of Bloodborne Kart at the moment. Wow. It is... Huh. Super Mario 64! One of the best video games ever. I always loved Super Mario 64. I love the music, I love the levels. It is so much fun to play. And then I started speedrunning it, which did not happen this year, but just generally speaking, it is a timeless game, and I love it. And then I started speedrunning it, and speedrunning Mario 64 is far and above my favorite speedrunning experience. I have speedrun a fair number of games in the past. I've done some level optimization stuff in Dust Force. I've done level optimization stuff in Drunken Robot Pornography, which I need to stream at some point. Probably don't have my records in that game anymore. Drunken Robot Pornography is a first-person level-based shooter where you shoot a giant robot. It's not anything weird, it just has a bad name. So I was the world record speed runner for all 4 categories of Guacamelee for a while. I've got some speedrun credentials. But man, speedrunning Mario 64 is so much fun. There are so many little optimizations. There are so many routes that you can learn in order to, like, gradually get better, gradually increase your confidence and your control of Mario. There's so much depth to controlling Mario. It is... I feel like I don't really have to sing the praises of Super Mario 64 speedrunning. It's... You know it's good. It's good. It's so much fun. It's definitely up there. More Mario. We'll get to it once the Mario co-op mod is fixed. Maybe I'll just do a 120-star speedrun sometime in the next little bit. It's been a while. I'm probably super rusty. Minecraft. It's alright. I went into Minecraft expecting to naturally have the inspiration to do more interesting things. But I think because the progression of Minecraft is not as well demonstrated and not as well laid out, and also just lacking in comparison to games like Factorio and Satisfactory, it was not as much fun to stream as I thought it would be. So much of my Minecraft fun was seeing what my friends were doing, and, like, it felt more like just individual demonstrations of the cool shit that my friends were getting up to. And I never really found that spark to really go deep and make a bunch of stuff of my own. Now, how do you rate Minecraft? Minecraft is Minecraft. Like, everybody knows exactly what Minecraft is. Everybody knows exactly where Minecraft stands on their rating system. But to be perfectly honest, my experience with, like, trying out Minecraft in the year 2022 was not as much fun as I expected. Like, disappointing sounds harsh, but I don't know. I thought I would have the spark for it. I ended up not having the spark for it. It's not the only game on this list that's gonna end up in a lower tier than it deserves for that exact reason. Should go back to Infiniminer. Oh boy. Minecraft is going into the B tier. Hey, Magic the Gathering! How do people feel about Magic the Gathering? I'll tell you exactly how I feel about Magic the Gathering. I want to play paper Magic the Gathering more often. I had forgotten how much fun it is to sit down at a table with other people and play with physical Magic cards. With Magic Arena, it's so easy to fall into the trap of, I'm just gonna sit down and play a bunch of, like, best of one constructed games, where I'm playing just, like, an alright standard deck against other people playing alright standard decks, and I just fall into a daze. I'm not actively engaged when I'm playing Magic like that. I'm not actively having fun. I'm just playing Magic. I am engaging in the act of playing Magic. Sitting down at MFF and playing Commander was like, man, I fucking love Magic. Doing the Unfinity draft with friends at MFF. That was just like, man, I love Magic. I just love Magic the Gathering. And I wish that I could play more paper Magic without exposing myself to disease. And just the act of, like, building a new deck was, oh my god, I was so excited. It had been a long time since I was just so excited to be doing something other than playing a video game. I was, like, looking through the binders and being like, oh shit, I didn't know we had one of these. Yeah, that could go in the deck, that could go in this deck. I'm looking up cards online and being like, I didn't know this card existed, but it's perfect for this deck that I want to build. And just, like, sitting down and sleeving cards and shuffling a deck. Oh, I love Magic. I love Magic so much. I think if they made a regular queue to just play Gladiator on Magic Arena more often, I would probably play more of it and enjoy it more. But I think Magic is maybe a high A. Because for as much as I, like, was filled with the energy of just being so enamored with a hobby, a lot of Magic that I played this year was just like, it was alright. I was playing Magic. There weren't any sets that came out on Arena that I was just like, I love drafting this set. I'm gonna draft the hell out of the set. I'm having a blast and a half playing this. It was mostly just like, that's alright. Just like B+ across the board for Magic Arena. Gladiator is a lot of fun. Should have played more of that. Path of Exile. Another classic, I'm watching something else on my other monitor game. Path of Exile is a game that I will fall into for a month or two, and then just like ejector seat, just flunge myself out of for months at a time. Streets of New Capenna is the worst limited set they've released in a decade. I disagree, but I don't remember which... I think I liked... I think I liked both of the Innistrad sets, the new Innistrad sets. I think I liked them less than New Capenna. I think I liked playing them less than New Capenna. Anyways, Path of Exile. Path of Exile is a great game. If you want to play an action RPG, which is something similar to Diablo or Torchlight if you're that way inclined. If you want to play something like that, you play Path of Exile. It's a lot. I understand it's a lot. The gem system, the passive tree, it's all quite intimidating to approach as a new player. But it has a level of depth and a breadth of mechanics that is just unmatched in the genre. There is so much you can do in Path of Exile, and I think generally the endgame content is pretty great. Actually, being able to engage with all of the endgame content, probably not going to happen for most players. Like, a lot of players will never see a tangible amount of content in that game. But that's okay. I think it's really fun, and if you're willing to put in the effort needed to learn, like, the fundamentals, which, the fundamentals, not a super high bar. And so you can hop in with a general idea of, like, maybe you look up, like, what kinds of skills are available, and or you just, like, boot it up without looking at anything. You look at what the different characters can do. You see what gems the different characters are offered. You see what kind of, like, ability, like, what kind of nodes on the passive tree that character starts off next to. And you just figure it out. I think that is viable for your first Path of Exile experience. And you probably won't get super far. You might not beat the entire story if you play it that way. But that's okay, because you learn a lot. And once you have that initial experience, you can start looking shit up. You can start looking up builds, you can start looking up synergies, you can start looking up all kinds of stuff, uniques that you might be able to buy off other players. The trade system is still just awful. But there is a lot of game in that game, and it's really great. Better or worse than Diablo 2? I think it's better than Diablo 2. Diablo 2 has aged not the best. The currency system is insane because there is no gold. You do not pick up a currency that is just for spending as money. You trade, like, the money is different consumable items. And these different consumable items are used to, like, randomly affect your items. So, hey, here's an orb, and this orb will re-roll the number of sockets on this piece of gear. And the more sockets you have on a piece of gear, the more gems you can socket into it. The more gems you have, the more skills you have. But gems can be skills, or they can be linked to skills in order to enhance those skills. And, like, that's the fundamental of it. Like, that's the fundamental of basically the whole game. But there's so much, like, that you can learn about, like, okay, well, I can use these jeweler's orbs to re-roll an item until it has the maximum number of sockets. Cool. Well, now you want to link all of those sockets. You get a different orb to link those sockets. And okay, cool. Now I've got all the sockets are linked together. Well, is the item a rare item? Well, you can use this Chaos Orb in order to re-roll the effects of that rare item. So it could give you, like, extra lightning damage, and then you re-roll it and it gives you extra fire damage instead. And so there's a lot. I could talk about the systems of Path of Exile for hours. But it is not very approachable. But I don't think it's inaccessible. I think if you go in with an open mind and you're willing to just, like, embrace and let it wash over you, I think you can have a great time with it, even if you're not putting in the time and effort to, like, look up builds, look up, like, which are the meta skills, which are the best skills. Just, like, what does this new gem do? Hey, I completed a quest and they gave me the option of, like, 6 different attacks. What do these attacks do? Spectral sword. I throw a sword and it, like, boomerangs. So, like, it goes out in front of me and then it comes back. That's neat. What's this other one? Ethereal knives. I throw out just, like, a cone of knives. But then it says it leaves behind some knives. What does that mean? Oh, there's this other skill that makes knives skills explode. Or it makes the knives that are left over from knives skills explode. Using a Chaos Orb on an item, hoping for a good item, is like throwing a $5 bill into a bonfire and hoping it turns into a more valuable bill. Yeah, it's... There's a lot to know about the game. But I think it is totally viable to just jump in and see what's up and have a good time, and then you start looking shit up and figuring out, like, oh, how do I actually do things? How do I make a character that doesn't suck? And so on and so forth. I'm the kind of player that usually just uses a build. I will just look up a build online and figure out what I want to do from there. Because I am a scrub! Anyway, Path of Exile's an S tier. Later, Badrick. Thanks for hanging out. Happy New Year. Next game, Mario Party 5. Mario Party 5 is... I think Mario Party 5 is my favorite Mario Party. I like Mario Party 5 a lot. I like the orbs. I think the maps are generally pretty good. They do not... Did we play Mario Party this year? Yes. Pretty close to the beginning of the year, I think. Or, like, closer to the beginning of the year. Because we did it for my birthday, I think. I think we played 4, 5, and 7 for my birthday. So, Mario Party 5 is probably overall my favorite Mario Party, or at least my favorite Mario Party that I have played. I have not played the newest one, the Super Mario Party All-Stars, New Super Mario Party, whatever the fuck the newest one is. I haven't played the newest one. It's still a Mario Party, so, you know, take that with a grain of salt, but if I were to, like, play a traditional party-style game with the board and the mini-games and such, Mario Party 5, pretty high on the list in terms of which one I would choose to play. The N64 Mario parties, gosh, all three of them disappointed quite severely. Most of the later Mario parties run together for you until you start playing one and start going, oh god, oh no, it's this one. I think the worst experience in that regard for me was Mario Party 7. Because in Mario Party 7, there's not just a regular board. All of the boards are, like, super gimmicky. Mario Party 5 has the right balance of gimmick to non-gimmick. You can have a cowboy hat in 2. Yeah, but it's not fun to play! Are they going to stop numbering the Mario parties now? Yeah, they're going to make it as difficult to figure out which Mario Party people are talking about as possible. I like Mario Party 5. Yoshi getting wasted on milk at the Hootenanny. Fortnite! I'm not allowed to buy Meow Skulls anymore, so... Winnie the Pooh Home Run Derby! Gosh. This game was so much easier than I expected it to be. I was genuinely surprised at how quickly I was able to beat Christopher Robin, but... I mean, Winnie the Pooh Home Run Derby is not what I would call a traditionally good game. But I enjoy going back to Winnie the Pooh Home Run Derby. However, I will clarify, there's probably a non-zero amount of my enjoyment of Winnie the Pooh Home Run Derby that is purely based in the fact that I am pretty alright at it. It's fun to have a game that you can brag about being good at, and I think Home Run Derby is definitely a high one of those for me. 39 out of 40. Yeah. Christopher Robin's an uphill battle, but I beat him. I defeated the Pitch King. And that can never be taken away from me. So, Winnie the Pooh can hang out in B tier. RimWorld. The biotech DLC is really cool, and I know the guy that made one of the he made like the big furry mod gene pack thing for the biotech mod. Nice guy. I like RimWorld a lot, just in general. It's a fun game to just like get deep into for a while, and then I'll hop off it for a while and not go back to it. It's a game that I keep coming back to. And I think the DLCs do a generally pretty good job of introducing enough new mechanics that, like, you can usually just, like, start multiple new colonies entirely focused on, like, one of the new mechanics. And there will be multiple of these new mechanics, and there will be tons of depth to new mechanics that you can have. Like, all kinds of, like, other colonies, other runs based entirely off of, like, okay, so I'm gonna do a robotics run, but I'm going to do it by making an entire race of people that are immune to pollution, and I'm going to make as much pollution as I possibly can. Or, I'm going to start my run in the mountains, and if any of my colonists go outside, they start to combust. Neat stuff, fun stuff, a lot of weird, fun, cool stuff going on. If you like city colony building type games, you've probably already played RimWorld. But if you haven't, give it a try. It's pretty good. Mario Party 4, not as good as Mario Party 5. I think the orb system is worse, and that is like the biggest problem, in my opinion, between 4 and 5. I vaguely recall, on average, liking the minigames in 5 more than 4 as well. But it's okay. It's alright. I still like it more than any of the N64 Mario parties. I know Mario Party 2 lets you have cowboy hats and spaceman costumes and stuff on your characters. That doesn't make it more fun to play. So, Mario Party 4, it's okay. It gets to hang out in the B tier. Yakuza 4. 4 playable characters, 4 different storylines, all converging into one overarching conspiracy and cool boss fights and completely different fighting styles. This one, as a bare minimum, is one of my favorite Yakuza games because it introduced Akiyama, who is one of my favorite characters. Is this just games This is games I have streamed this year. There are games that I have played this year that are not on this list. Oh god, there's still a lot of games left. Yakuza 4. I like Yakuza 4 a lot. It's especially memorable in being the first Yakuza game after Yakuza 3, which indicates that the Yakuza series will never be that bad again. It might not be all uphill from, it might not be a consistent uphill from 4 onwards, but it is. It's great. It's great. It also has one of the best stories in the series, I think. Even if I think Tanimura is kind of a wiener. I love me some Yakuza. Love them yaks. Bloodborne! Now, here's a very interesting question. How am I going to rate Bloodborne? The story goes nuts at the end. The story goes nuts at the end of every Yakuza game. That's just how those games go. It's just crime drama. How am I gonna rate Bloodborne? Because when Halloween was rolling around, I was quite excited to be like, I'm gonna play Bloodborne. It's been a long time since I played Bloodborne. This is as good an excuse as any. I'm just gonna play Bloodborne. And I started to play Bloodborne. And I did not have a good time. Fortnite was that bad? Fortnite is a D tier because it won't let me buy Meow Skulls. Meow Skulls is now locked in the Disney Vault forever, and so, fuck that game. So, Bloodborne. I did not have a good time streaming Bloodborne. I just was not having fun playing it overall. And it was not entirely unexpected, to be perfectly honest. Bloodborne, as sacrilegious as it may be to say so, is one of my least favorite Soulsborne games. Maybe one of my least favorite From Software games. Even aside from the issues with, like, there being severe arachnophobia problems in certain areas, which, you know, Dark Souls 2 is guilty of as well. But the game runs so poorly, and that's such a bummer in general. And it's hard to really, truly knock Bloodborne for that problem, but it's tangible. It's a tangible problem. It is a problem that I have with that game, in that it is frustrating to play sometimes because it just runs like garbage. But then when it comes to actual gameplay, there are a lot of things that are very frustrating about playing Bloodborne. Having to farm regularly for multiple resources. Having to farm for not only your healing items, but your ammo. Having to do that regularly. And you can't just like, oh, I'm just gonna buy a bunch of... I'm just gonna buy the healing items to restock whenever I need to. You're super disincentivized from doing that because the consumable items get so expensive, like, they get proportionally more expensive based on where you're at in the overall game progression. So it doesn't even give you the benefit of getting beyond needing to grind for these items. The moment-to-moment gameplay is generally pretty good. Like, parrying with the guns is fun. The switch weapons are generally pretty cool. I never got into using the switch weapons for, like, their switch abilities. I feel like I never really utilized that kind of thing well enough. So that's on me. Some of the level design gets truly labyrinthian, and it becomes fairly easy to get lost in, like, these different variants of fucked up London. I'm not going to say they're all samey, but there is a consistency within the zones that, while it makes for a more cohesive visual design, makes it a little hard to try and remember where everything is, which is not a problem that I had quite as much in, or quite as often in any of the other games. I have a lot of problems with Bloodborne. And people are gonna get mad at me, but I gotta put it in the B tier. Maybe at some point, maybe if they actually do a re-release, get Bluepoint on it. Get Bluepoint to get in there and do with Bloodborne what they did with Demon's Souls. Then I'm on board. But I'm sorry, Bloodborne, I don't love Bloodborne. And speaking of games that I don't love, Yakuza Kiwami 1. The way I described it, you were expecting to see. I feel like I was mostly just justifying what I did not like about the game. I think, like, the overall experience is still more than solid enough. I'm not gonna put it down with Nobody Saves the World. It's not that bad. I just have a lot of bad things to say about it. So, why is Xenoblade 2 there twice? We're almost there. We're getting there. Yakuza Kiwami 1. The Majima Everywhere system, perfect. Wouldn't change a thing. I love the Majima Everywhere system, and I love everything that they added to that game to, like, enhance and establish this relationship between Kiryu and Majima. And Majima is the good part of the game. You still got Pocket Racer. You like there are good and fun side stuff. There is good and fun side stuff to do in Yakuza Kiwami, but it suffers greatly from being sandwiched between two of the best entries in the series, and it is a remake of the first game. So they enhanced it in a lot of ways. They definitely they added a bunch of content, and that added content is great. But overall, Yakuza 1, it is just not as interesting as so many of the other Yakuza games. The combat is alright, it's fine. I still enjoy the combat, but it's not. I didn't like it as much as 0 or Kiwami 2 or 5 for that matter. It is a very unfortunate dip in the Yakuza series, because it starts off so strong, and then the worst crime of Yakuza Kiwami is that it's alright. It's fine. It's still fun. It's still overall a good game. Like, there's only so bad that a Yakuza game is going to get, and it gets fairly bad. We'll get there. But it's not bad. It's just alright. It's still a solid alright. I think it still deserves to be up in the A's. But it's alright. Stellaris. 4X games. I'm not good at them. And I don't feel like I am particularly creative when it comes to, like, how I will generally approach a 4X game. But Stellaris does a really great job of finding interesting ways of encouraging you to approach the game from different angles. Unfortunately, a lot of the time it does that by making you buy new DLC packs. Even on sale, getting all of the Stellaris DLC is pretty expensive, but I do have most of the Stellaris DLC, and I don't regret purchasing it. I think even the base game these days has a lot of really cool and interesting... I'd say cool and interesting too much. Even the base game has a lot going on, and has benefited from major patch updates that you get, like, a tasting portion of something, of the mechanics when there is a big new expansion released. You get a little bit. You get some stuff going on in that expansion. But you really want to get the expansion if you want the cool stuff. And the game suffers from that. It does benefit if you enjoy playing 4X games in multiplayer, which is a big ask for me. A 4X game is such a huge investment of time and thought and energy when it comes to a multiplayer game. Because during that time, if you are, like, even if you are all allied together, you are still spending a lot of time trying to coordinate and negotiate and organize things that are going on between all of these players, so you're not just thinking of yourself. But if you have a friend that has all of the DLC, then anyone that's playing with that friend can access the DLC, which is pretty cool. Would have been happier with Stellaris if it were true turn-based. Yeah, I think it does suffer in some ways in comparison to something like a Civilization. I have not played Civ 6, by the way. I should try that at some point. But it does suffer in some ways by being a real-time experience. Especially in the context of multiplayer. But I think there are pretty big trade-offs between playing it solo and playing it multiplayer. But either, like, however you want to play it, I think it is overall a pretty great experience. I think Stellaris is real good. Jackbox Party Packs! How would you like to buy 8 different games, and how would you like to buy 8 different packs of minigames and play 1 minigame from each of them for the rest of your life? May I introduce you to Jackbox Party Packs? It's not quite that severe, but the Jackboxes, man, there are some winners. Job is just one of the best, like, hanging out with friends experiences there is to have. It is so good at being funny, and so good at making you be funny, that while not all of the Jackbox games are winners, the ones that are winners are, like, just knock it out of the park. They are so good at what they set out to do and how they do it. So, Jackbox Party Pack hanging out up in the S tier. Now, a lot of people have asked me, Hat, why is Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on the tier list twice? Well, that's because there are two very distinct, distinct isn't exactly the word that I'm looking for, but I can't call the other word to mind. So there are two distinct aspects of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Xenoblade 1. Xenoblade 2 is a game that I love. I love Discrete. Thank you. Discrete is what I was looking for. So there are two discrete aspects to these games. There is the story, the setting, the world building, the characterization, the writing, the environment design, the graphics, the aesthetics, the music as a whole. There is one song in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 that just gets me so fucking pumped. Like, I just started hearing the big part of that song in my head, and I got chills. There is so much to love about Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And while I'm talking about the positives, it also does something that very few games have done. It does something that I cannot get over. It is so interesting. It uses the dialects of the voice actors to tell some of the story. Characters' accents matter, and that is crazy. Not all of the voice performances are good, but we'll get to that. But the fact that you can usually tell when a character is from. Like, rather than talking all old-timey English, forsooth, what is thine bidding, and all that nonsense, what if the characters from the distant past just talked like normal-ass American voice actors, and everyone else in the game is, like, Irish, Scottish, British, Australian, for, like, one region, you got a couple of Australian characters. It is so interesting. It is one of the most interesting games I have ever played. However, this game is not without its faults. Xenoblade 2, while I have a lot of good things to say about the way they handled the voice acting, the main character has a lot of bad voice performances. A lot of his line reads come across as stilted or contextually incorrect. And to me, it often reads as not the voice actor being a bad voice actor, but just the voice direction being bad, of not giving characters enough context for the lines they are reading. The most heartfelt parts were the worst. Yeah, it's just, like, you have these moments that are just so, like, touching, and the build-up feels so well-earned, and, like, everything about those moments are so good. They're nailing everything, and then you cut to the main character for a dramatic cry, and he just goes, "No." Not, "No! No." Just frustrating. But then you also have one of my favorite, like, vocal performances in any JRPG of Malos, the big bad villain man. Man, that guy was having the best time reading those lines. He was just a big, brash motherfucker, and he loved it. So, here's the thing. Xenoblade 2, I found to be awful to play. I actively disliked playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for a large chunk of my, 70, 80 hour playtime in that game. I think a lot of the combat systems are not particularly well established or, handled in interesting ways. I think a lot of the non-combat mechanics are also poorly handled. In Xenoblade 3 and Xenoblade 1, in order to pick up, random collectibles that you just find out in the world for various purposes, there's a little dot just hanging out in the world. And you walk over that dot, and you pick up the item. Great. In Xenoblade Chronicles 2, you walk over to that item. You press A on that item to activate it. And you get a fun little, non-interactive sequence where the game tells you all of the cool bonuses that you get to gathering from resource nodes of that type. And this takes several seconds. And then, once that fun little animation finishes playing, then all of the items pop out. And unless you have specific upgrades, you have to, very specifically walk over each of those items to pick them up. They don't just, pop out and then go into your inventory. You still have to walk around and pick them up. How do you get the upgrade to make this gathering process slightly less awful? Well, first, you have to do a air quotes minigame where you do 3 QuickTime events in a row, and then you get a random amount of chests. Sometimes you get a monster that you have to fight before you can open up the chests, and sometimes you get some loot that's outside of the chests. If you do a bad job, sometimes you get no chests, sometimes you just get a monster, sometimes the monster drops loot. But the process of doing this little QuickTime event to jump off a cliff, and then you come back up, and then there's some loot on the ground, and you pick up the loot on the ground, and there are chests, and then you have to open each of the chests, and then pick up the stuff that comes out of the chest, and then fight the monster that also came with the chests. It takes 4 goddamn ever. And you have to do this a bunch of times. And you keep doing this until you have sold enough of the stuff that you get from this process to a town in order to get that town to 5 stars. Now, you should have a bunch of money now. And what you need to do is you need to buy a bunch of stuff in that town. Because now that you have 5 stars in that town, you get a 50% discount. You can sell items for 50% of their full price value without the discount. So you buy them at 50%, and then you go sell them at a different town for the amount that you paid for. And this gets you progress in that other town towards 5 stars. Now, this process continues for several steps of completely meaningless, worthless, time-wasting garbage. And then you get that other town to 5 stars. Well, great. Now can I get the upgrade that lets me pick up items easier? No. Now, you have to buy every item at a store. Okay, that seems easy. I've got a bunch of money. Okay, so you buy every item at the store, and then you leave the store, and then you go back into the store, and if you have actually bought everything that store will ever have available, you get access to a key item that will give you a permanent passive bonus. Great. If you do not get the key item, then you have to do the mobile game mini-games, where you pull stupid generic anime, not even anime creatures, you pull stupid generic, like, golem creatures out of a bunch of gacha pulls, and then you send them on real-time missions in order to unlock the rest of the items in that store. A lot of these real-time missions can take upwards of 3 hours. 3 real-life hours playing this video game, or just leaving the video game open in the background. And then you can make gathering items slightly less awful. That whole story is just indicative of all of the many problems that I have with the gameplay of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2, awful. Everything else about Xenoblade Chronicles 2, love it, perfect, wouldn't change a thing. Well, I would improve some of the voice acting performances. So that's why there's 2. It is a quantum review, it is a quantum rating of I love this game, and I hate this game. Now, how about a game where I don't need a bunch of asterisk? It was the best of games, it was the worst of games. Yeah. How about a game that's just exceptionally good? How about Kirby and the Forgotten Land? Golly, this game rules. The power-ups are fun to use, the level design is great, the music is great, the graphics are great. You get some really fun little mini-games to play. There's like a bunch of post-game content. There's a bunch of collectibles that gets you a little... Sometimes they give you a little bit of lore. Sometimes you just get, like, a fun little joke about an enemy, and then you can, like, view the 3D model of that enemy because you got it as a figurine. You get boss rushes, you get, like, upgrading your different powers into new versions of those powers, which is super cool. Like, oh, you got Flame, which is great. It does everything that the Flame power-up does in all the regular Kirby games. But then you upgrade it, and you upgrade it into, like, lava, and instead of shooting fire, you shoot balls of magma, and then you do more damage, and then you upgrade it to Dragon, and the Dragon fire ability lets you, like, use the air dash attack move a bunch of times in a row, and it's so good. Everything about Kirby and the Forgotten Land is spectacular. I love it a lot. It is one of my favorite games of the year. One of my favorite games on the Switch. Probably my favorite Kirby game. It's so good. Tunic. Hey, Kirby's a classic game. How about Zelda? You like Zelda? You like classic Zelda? Well, here you go. It's everything that was good about the fundamental design of older Zeldas, of open world exploration, unlocking new abilities, and figuring out more stuff to explore more of the world. Gaining new tools that let you do interesting things, like a grapple hook. Grappling hooks are rad. Tunic's got a grapple hook. And so the core of the game, just like exploring the world and doing little puzzles and figuring out how to solve problems, how to progress, learning like different enemy patterns and attacks so that you can fight them more consistently, or you can maybe go out of your way and find some upgrades that'll make combat easier because you get more attack or more defense. And even figuring out how to use those permanent upgrades is interesting in itself. Because how do you find out about doing all that kind of stuff? Because the game just does not tell you a lot of things. Well, it does tell you a lot of things, but it tells you in the manual, which you find pieces of over the course of the game. And the manual tells you about the plot. It tells you like all kinds of hints and secrets. Like, it tells you one of the first pages that you're likely to find in the game gives you cheat codes for the game. And I didn't know how to use those cheat codes until I was already like in the process of going for 100% completion, like basically already completed the game at that point, because the manual in itself is a puzzle for you to solve. A lot of the text written in the manual is written in the game, like a unique language that was designed, or like an alphabet designed for the game. And so you can't read it. And I never learned how to read it. I never learned how to read the language in Tunic. And I still got 100% completion. Well, not like true 100%. There were a couple of like super secret trophy items that I did not collect, but for all intents and purposes, I 100%ed that game. And it's just good. It's just so consistently engaging and interesting. Every time I found out something new about the game, I either felt like an idiot because I should have known all along, because I was able to do that thing all along, or I feel like a goddamn genius. And each of, like, all of those highs and lows meld together in such a memorable experience. And the story that it tells is interesting, and the world is an interesting place. The moment-to-moment gameplay, like just controlling the fox, generally feels pretty great. And the game rewards you for experimentation. There are so many moments where I look at something and think, can I just do this? And then I do it, and it works. And it's just such an incredible video game experience. It is one of my favorite video games of all time. It is so good, and I cannot possibly recommend it high enough. It's kind of just going into a pile of games that I absolutely love up here. It's not an exact system. Yeah, Tunic. It might overall be my game of the year. I don't know. It's good. It's good. It's exceptionally good. Okay, I need to speed up at least a little bit. Oh god, there's still a bunch of games, and I've been going for 2.5 hours. House Flipper. What if doing chores was fun? Which is also the tagline of Power Wash Simulator. But House Flipper, I think the worst thing that I could say about House Flipper is that I wish there were more jobs where the game just tells you a set of objectives that you should do, and then you accomplish those objectives. The actual process of, like, buying a house and then modifying the house to try and make the most money, I do not enjoy that aspect of the game nearly as much as just like, hey, my house is fucked up, could you come clean up all the trash and then knock down a couple of walls and then build a new bathroom for me? Thanks, Cult. It is a very chill game. It is one of my favorite, like, just zone out, just relax. I'm just gonna sit down and play some House Flipper. I'm gonna paint some walls. I'm gonna pick out some new flooring. I'm gonna go mow the lawn. I'm gonna plant some flowers. It's kind of a zen experience. A lot of the stuff that I'm saying about this game is also going to be applied to Power Wash Simulator. They are very similar, but it's fun. It just feels good to engage with the core mechanics of just like, the couch should be like, maybe if I just scoot it over a little bit, or maybe like if I have the freedom to do so, hey, I'm just gonna knock down this wall and expand the living room so that way I can fit this gigantic couch that I want to have. It's a lot of fun. It is a chill game. It's not an exciting experience, but it's fun. I like just chilling out with it. Just designing a house. Yakuza Kiwami 2. One of my favorite of the Yakuza games. It is super good. Some people do not like the combat of the Dragon engine, which is the new engine that Kiwami 2, 6, and 7 use. But even if you don't love the combat in Yakuza Kiwami 2, there is so very much to love about this game. It looks amazing. Some of the best graphics in the series, for sure. And the story is fantastic. There is a lot of very intriguing stuff going on. There's a lot of things that are, like, hinted towards and set up in really smart ways, leading up to the typical expected big Yakuza ending of, oh god, everybody's shooting everybody. Everybody was double crossing and triple crossing and quadruple crossing, and it was all a government conspiracy. Oh my god. And it's great. Love it. And on top of having a personal enjoyment of the core combat, there is a lot of really fantastic side stories and a lot of really fantastic mini-game campaigns, like the Cabaret Club storyline and mini-game in Kiwami 2 is generally improved upon from Yakuza 0, and very fun. Majima construction. He's the man, as you saw. Gohoro Majima. Gotta love Majima construction. And all of those goofus-ass Japanese pro wrestlers that they got to do some truly terrible voice acting. Not Yakuza 2, but I think Arai is so far my favorite Yakuza game plot device. Yeah! Yakuza 4 is also really good. So, Yakuza Kiwami 2. It's going up here. It might be above Sonic Adventure 2, it might be above Xenoblade. I don't know. It's definitely S tier, for sure, for sure. What bad opinions did you miss? Bloodborne in B tier. I think that's probably the big one. Oh, hey! Burke is here just in time. So, Sifu. Sifu is a game I wanted to like way more than I did. The concept behind Sifu is so cool. Like, you are playing through a kung fu action movie with really in-depth combat mechanics and, like, all these cool martial arts moves. Sifu is cool because it's almost STFU. You have to go into detail on Spelunky. Fine. In a second. So, Sifu... I think the way that you are intended to gain... I think the progression systems in Sifu are not great. The ways that you are generally expected to, like, gain any kind of permanent increase to your character's capabilities, I usually think that's not particularly well done. And in the context of doing, like, a full, like, attempting to play all the way through the game, if you start on a later level, you start disadvantaged because you are missing upgrades that you get in earlier levels. But generally, you're going to be playing through these levels a lot of times to try and, like, learn all of the enemies and just, like, get better at the combat. So I think Sifu has the get good problem of, if you are not dedicating the amount of attention and, like, learning the different skills in the game at a sufficient rate, then you are going to end up bashing your head against like certain encounters, certain enemies, far more than I think is fun. So, it looks cool. The whole, like, if you die, then you come back, but you're just older, which makes you deal more damage, but you have less health. All that stuff, it's neat. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in Sifu, but I just didn't like it as much as I wanted to. Okay, Spelunky 2. Spelunky 2 is maybe a more frustrating... It's not more frustrating than Mega Man 9. It is a very frustrating sequel, because I love Spelunky 1. I played the absolute hell out of Spelunky 1. I've played that game so many times. I've still never beaten Hell, but I enjoyed playing through that game so much, just like trying to go for high scores and stuff. It is a lot of fun. I like Spelunky 1 a lot. And I think everything that Spelunky 2 does that is new, I think everything new in Spelunky 2 makes the game worse. I do not think there is a single new mechanic in Spelunky 2 that makes the game just flat out better. There is so much more emphasis put on the things that are mean. There are so many more enemies that behave in ways that so many enemies will just get a cheap hit on you because of the weird way that they behave. So many traps, so many it just feels like a game that was made much more mean for no good reason. And that not only includes any individual obstacle or just like enemy, like the boss fight stuff is interesting. I don't think there's enough depth to it to make it that interesting. I mean, Olmec, I guess, but even so. But it also feels more mean in the sense of people who want to try and experience the content that the game has to offer. The path that you have to take in order to get the, air quotes, true ending is truly unreasonable. And I feel like there is not anyone, like, no one is going to argue me on that point. If you are going to try and argue against me making that point, then what are you even doing? Which true ending? There's two. So, you know, there's that. But it is a level of esoteric knowledge and such obscenely high expectations that I do not think that stuff is well designed. I do not mean the one that has 100 floors. That one is just like that one is getting that ending is much more in, like, obviously ridiculous and unfair, and, like, we didn't really expect anyone but the, like, most die-hard, like, this is the only thing they're doing with their time kind of players. So there's that. And I'm not really taking that into consideration. That one is clearly of its own thing. I'm just talking about, like, in comparison to Hell. Getting to Hell already required some true nonsense. Like, in Spelunky 1, getting to hell required some true nonsense. But it felt so much more obtainable. And I think part of that is helped by there not being as much stuff. I think the addition of so much more content in Spelunky 2 works against it in some weird ways. Like, oh, there's more game. What do you mean it's a bad thing that there's more game? Spelunky 1 is... One of the things that makes Spelunky 1 so particularly well designed is there's not a lot of chaff. It feels like the rarer content in that game is so much more reasonable to come across. And there is not so much of this rare content that you could end up missing a tangible amount of the game, of what is available in the game, just by not knowing all of this incredibly esoteric stuff. There's a strat in multiplayer with Spelunky 2 that lets you start with the jetpack or the rocket launcher guaranteed. So, I appreciate Spelunky 2 maybe being more fun multiplayer. I appreciate that. As far as me reviewing Spelunky 2 and deciding where Spelunky 2 belongs on a tier list, I don't care. I know that the one Spelunky 2 stream I did was multiplayer this year, but that's not really my area of focus. Because if a game that offers you the option of playing single player doesn't expect you to be able to accomplish, like, the core goals of the game by yourself without an obscene amount of practice, knowledge, esoteric knowledge, I think it is too much. I think, like, my general summary is everything that was added to Spelunky 2 makes the game worse. So, it is, like, if I were to genuinely put it somewhere on the tier list, I think it would genuinely be, like, a high C. Because I didn't particularly enjoy it. I just didn't have fun with it, and I think, especially in comparison to Spelunky 1, I think it just is worse for... It is worse for the sake of having more stuff in it, which I can appreciate, but it's a frustrating problem to have. So, moving on from the albatross that was forcibly placed around my neck by someone else arbitrarily, Satisfactory. Satisfactory is a lot of fun. Multiplayer Satisfactory, you are arbitrarily, thanks Cult. Satisfactory, I think, is a fantastic factory builder, and in a lot of ways I see it as the other side of the Factorio coin. Of Satisfactory is generally much more approachable than Factorio, so its approachability makes it feel like it is better suited for more goofy nonsense and more aesthetic shenanigans than something like a Factorio. for considering both games are so designed around the optimization of, like, this automated process of, like, constantly upgrading and refactoring all of these machines to optimize their output in order to make more stuff. You need to make stuff so that you can make new stuff that will make stuff faster. It's the same general process and progression between both games, but Factorio just has this sense of... It kind of feels like Factorio is the mechanical of the two. Satisfactory is the biological of the two. Satisfactory feels so much more natural. It is certainly helped by the sense of exploration of Satisfactory, it being in 3D, but also the fact that none of the resource nodes are limited in any way except output. It makes it so that you have so much more room to experiment and to learn without this fear in Factorio of, you know, oh shit, my entire factory was based entirely on this one iron patch, and now it's gone. And now I will have to spend an hour, maybe multiple hours, like, finding a new iron patch, like, tapping it with all of these mining drills, and then bringing all of those over to, like, feed into my old smelter setup, or making an entirely new smelting setup. It's so, like... It has a very different feeling. Yeah, Satisfactory is so... It feels so much more comfortable than Factorio. And it certainly helps that, like, having so many more of these aesthetic options rather than so much of the aesthetic options in Factorio are just like, oh, you could make concrete. You cannot have all of your buildings in the dirt. Can't make more artistic nonsense in conveyor spaghetti, so Satisfactory is your factory game of choice. I think overall I enjoy Satisfactory more. But they're close. But they're different. Despite them both being a factory builder game, where the entire point of the game is to build more factories so that you can build more factory, they have a very different feeling. And I like both of them. Factorio did give us Garfcha and Los Amogus. Yeah, the Factorio streams really resulted in quite a lot of capital C content. The Factorio streams gave us the soda wiki, and me literally collapsing on the floor laughing. But the Satisfactory, you know, no slouch in its factory nonsense. Like, building the race tracks and the quantum trains getting launched into orbit and all that nonsense. So good. Both of those games are so much fun, and so much fun to stream as well. Next tier list stream, your viewers. I don't think I will. Risk of Rain 2! Gosh, I played a lot of, like, very multiplayer-oriented games this year, huh? I guess a lot of my single-player shenanigans generally went towards a set couple of games. Namely, the entire Yakuza series. So stoked when the hypertube half pipe worked. Yeah. Risk of Rain 2. Risk of Rain 2 is a whole heck of a lot of multiplayer fun. I mean, what could I say that hasn't been said about the other multiplayer games? Really, it is just piling a bunch of friends together and, like, especially modded Risk of Rain 2, where you've got just complete chaos of King DDD and players stacking up on top of each other and giving drones all of the items that you pick up. So much shenanigans to be had, so much fun. We do need to do more stupid Risk of Rain 2. But, you know, we also need to play more Sonic Kart and Super Mario Co-op once that works again. There's a lot of video game. Risk of Rain 2 with Renamon and Lucario, yeah. So, Risk of Rain 2, a lot of fun. High A tier. I think. Maybe not that high. It's been a while since I've played it, so it's more likely to kind of migrate towards the middle of whatever tier it's in, but I like it a lot. Good time with my friends. Now, Atomicrops was a very weird game. I mean, both aesthetically and mechanics-wise. A farming game that is also a run-based, top-down twin-stick shooter with dating sim elements. It's a cool game. And I really wanted to see what the game would be like on, like, the highest difficulty once I unlocked all of the meta progression upgrades and all that. Because the meta progression upgrades keep getting more interesting, which I was not expecting at all. But I think it did get to the point where it needed a little too much grinding in order to get more of the meta progression stuff, but the core gameplay loop of, like, this roguelite farming plus, like, you farm at night while you defend your farm from all of the monsters, and then during the daytime you go out and, like, explore these different regions, and the different regions give you, like, a bunch of upgrades, and they give you seeds to plant back at town. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on in that game, and it looks good, and it generally plays pretty well. It takes a little bit to really get used to the farming mechanics. Don't even remember this game. I only streamed it once, I think, but I like it a lot. It's on Game Pass. I'm pretty sure it's still on Game Pass, and I think it's pretty cheap on sale on Steam. And there's also DLC where you can play as a bird, I think. Lot of cool stuff going on with this game. But it did get, like, on higher difficulties, other than it starting to get kind of grindy, higher difficulties do start to get to the point where they start to feel a little bit unfair with, sometimes you just get bad upgrades, and it feels like you are far more vulnerable to that on the higher difficulties, so it's not perfectly balanced. The farming controls do get pretty jank sometimes, and do get frustrating, but it was a very interesting game, and I think it is definitely worth hanging out in the A tier. If you like... If you think you would like a top-down shooter farming sim, Atomic Crops is worth checking out. Even if you don't, maybe look at the gameplay and see what it's like. I thought it was neat. Hey, Elden Ring! I mean, it's going in S tier. Elden Ring is great. One of my favorite video games that I've never finished. Because I got almost to the end, but then bashed my face against Melania for like 4 or 5 hours, and then kinda got tired. So, I'm going back to it at some point, but Elden Ring! It is so good. There is so much to do and so much to see. They were so smart with how they doled out the content. And some of the content, you know, not every one of the graves are going to be like something super new and exciting, but the balance of the open world content and the more contained areas that feel more like traditional Soulsborne areas, and the way that you interact with these different kinds of areas, just the way that you interact with the world in general, is great. You don't need to see everything, but if you want to see everything, there are so many ways that the game encourages you to do so. Elden Ring has enough content for 2.5 full games. Yes, so going out of your way to see everything is a large commitment, because there is truly a ton of content in this game. Every time I would think, all right, I've got the map filled out. I'm probably getting closer to the end now. Every time that I would start feeling that way, I would find a new part of the map, or I would find a zone that is like an entire zone just contained within like a tower, or I would find like a dungeon or a storyline that takes me all over the place. There is so much stuff, and that stuff is so much fun. It feels like there is a much wider variety of viable ways to play. It feels like the weapon balance was generally geared towards player-friendly. As opposed to a lot of the Souls games, there are so many weapons and weapon types that just feel like a waste of time. But in Elden Ring, there are so many ways to play that game, and so many ways that the game encourages you to play the game in those ways. Like, the crafting system, in and of itself, not a strict upgrade to the core Soulsborne experience. Because crafting systems are just kind of a pain in the ass sometimes. But if you engage with the crafting system, it can make all new kinds of builds that much more viable. Like doing an archery build, the feeling of like making your own arrows and like stopping and seeing like, oh, okay, there's a big bastard over there, but I've been saving up some of my Scarlet Rot arrows, and if this guy is vulnerable to Scarlet Rot, then I can just like get him. I can infect him with Scarlet Rot, because I'm just gonna craft some of these Scarlet Rot arrows. I'm gonna infect him and then kind of just cheese him that way. And the fact that you can replenish those precious resources after the fact much more easily than, like, well, this vendor has 20 of them, and then after that you just gotta go grind them off this one enemy with a low drop rate. No, none of that nonsense. Much more accessibility to stuff like consumables. And generally just a lot of really interesting exploration to do. And then, on top of that, the core gameplay, it's better. They made the core gameplay, which is, you know, remained fairly similar through a lot of, through the main Dark Souls trilogy. In addition to feeling faster and snappier and just on average better, it also gave you new moves, like in your core ability set, like the jump. The jump adds several new moves. You lose out on the kick, bummer, but like the jump attacks and the concept of jumping over attacks. I think a jump button, like just a dedicated jump button, ended up working so well. And then you have the arts, like the weapon arts, and those do so many cool and interesting things and give you so much customization to what kind of build you want to make. Spectacular video game. Just one of my favorite video games of the year. Definitely one of my favorite FromSoft games. One of my favorite Soulsborne type games. I don't know if it's definitively over Dark Souls 3, but it might be. Oh yeah, Code Vein 2 might be coming out next year, right? They announced that, didn't they? Oh. Just thinking about... Elden Ring is great. Everybody knows Elden Ring is great. Elden Ring being great is just such a known quantity. But, so, when I think about, like, Soulsborne style games that I want to play, I'm just like, I want to play more of that weird anime one. I want to play the sequel to that. Alright, I already covered a lot about the Xenoblade Chronicles situation with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but it is not as severe as it was with Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in both directions. Xenoblade Chronicles, such incredible world building, really great work with the characters, fantastic soundtrack, fantastic aesthetics, much better voice performances. Just a really cool game. Unfortunately, the combat starts out quite slow, and does not speed up enough or improve in tangible enough ways to truly, like, to last the entirety of that game experience. Because Xenoblade Chronicles is a long game. Especially if you start to engage with all of the side quests, because there's a quadrillion side quests. There's building up a colony, like a whole city development thing. The city development was much better than Chronicles 2, but there's a lot of game in that game, and I don't think the combat stays good enough for that throughout that entire game to truly last the entire game. And here's something that I didn't go super into with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but both of these games have the problem of the protagonist gets the cool powers, which means if you are not controlling the protagonist, there are often times where you will be at a mechanical disadvantage if you do not, if you are not playing as the main character. Either because the main character gets access to, like, Super Saiyan mode, or main character has access to an entire set of abilities that you are expected to use regularly in like, boss fights and stuff. Oh god, my frames! It's not even New Year's yet, Comcast, come on! Oh, I should have downloaded more games. Well... I should have pressed the data cap this month a little harder. You all can still hear me, right? Like, my audio is getting through at least, because it's not like a ton of high-octane gameplay is going on the screen, at least. I am Audible. Alright, cool. Audible.com. So... Xenoblade Chronicles, not as severe in either direction. It is both an A and a C tier compared to an S and a D tier. Hear you pressing the data cap. Yeah. I don't even know what big dumb games I would have installed. But since Lago wasn't here for most of the month, I guess Lago is also not going to be here for a decent chunk of January, so maybe I'll download some more big dumb games next month as well. Yeah, we have hit a flat 0 and are unable to connect. Oh. Yep, I totally reconnected, OBS. Yep. That's what reconnecting means. Reconnecting means dropping 99% of my frames. Oh, reconnection successful! I fucking doubt it! Insert Zeeky Boogie Doog here. Well, that's a bummer. Fuck you, 2022. Am I not even gonna get to say Happy New Year? Ah, great. Reconnection successful. I fucking doubt it. Funny joke. Alright, well. That's a bummer. Oh, don't crash.